All right, and now we're at the co-main event of the evening for the interim UFC featherweight championship. You have the number 2 ranked Yair El Pantera Rodriguez, who comes into the fight with a record of 15 victories with 3 defeats, going up against the number 5 ranked Josh Emmett, who comes in with a phenomenal record in his own right of 18 victories with only 2 defeats. I love this fight, man. This is one of the best fights on the card. I mean, it's the co-main event, the interim featherweight championship. If Alexander Volkanovski defeats Islam Makhachev and, gains the lightweight title, then this fighter, whoever wins this, would more than likely become the new featherweight champion. If Volkanovski loses and comes back down, then you have your next challenger for Volkanovski if he decides to stay at 145. I love the fight. I really do. I think this is a very technical matchup. You've got power and speed versus technique and fluidity, I feel like, is the best way to describe this. And you also have the wrestling on the side of Emmett, which I could see him using because we've seen Yair have issues with the wrestling, especially against Frankie Edgar. That was kind of earlier in his UFC career when he was rising up to be a contender. But, he's had trouble with the takedowns, the wrestling, the top pressure. Jeremy Stephens was able to wrestle him. The longer the fight goes, the more the wrestling of Josh Emmett is going to play into this fight. I really think he's going to use a lot of grappling if it gets to the third, the fourth, the fifth round. And we've seen with Emmett, especially against Cater, he's not slow, but he's very methodical and he picks his shots. And that allows him to keep his cardio into the third, the fourth, the fifth round, as we saw against Kelvin. I thought Kelvin Cater did enough to beat Josh Emmett in that fight. I thought he won 3 rounds to 2, but it was a close fight, and I'm not completely pissed off that Emmett did enough to win, that Emmett won the fight, I guess, but I thought Kelvin did beat Josh Emmett. I thought Dan Ige, I just rewatched the fight with Dan Ige and Josh Emmett. I thought Ige could have got the decision aside from a couple of the big power shots that Emmett landed in the third round when Ige couldn't move his head effectively. Emmett is the guy who is going to lose the rounds until he lands that big overhand right. He lands that big straight right hand. He lands that big right hand into the left hook, which drops you or hurts you, and he can land a barrage. He's losing until he's not. And usually once he lands, he's going to put you to sleep. I mean, just look at the fight with Michael Johnson. When Johnson was at 145, he was beating Josh Emmett handedly, beating him every round. And then within the last 20 seconds of the third round, he lands that overhand right, gets to the outside of the lead right foot of Michael Johnson and lands that picture-perfect home run overhand right and knocks Michael Johnson out with one punch. Against Shane Burgos, he was losing the fight, but every time he landed on Burgos' chin, he dropped him. He dropped him 3 times in that fight. And if he wouldn't have scored those knockdowns, then Burgos more than likely would have got the decision. It's Josh Emmett's power, his explosiveness, the ability to land those big bombs on the chin of his opponents that really win Josh Emmett these fights. But he's very methodical because he knows he's a big, explosive guy with a lot of muscle. And at 145, he has the cardio, but it's because he fights smart. With El Pantera, Yair Rodriguez, Yair is a very, very technical striker. I mean, you know that. You're going to get spinning hook kicks, jumping two-touch roundhouse kicks like he knocked out Andre Feely with early in his career. I believe that was at UFC 197. Spinning back kicks, hook kicks, lead leg round kicks, low kicks, question mark kicks, rear round kicks, hook kicks, any type of kick you want, you're going to get it from Yair. He caught the Korean Zombie with that spinning back elbow, or not a spinning back elbow, but the upward elbow right at the end of the 5th round in the fight where he was going to lose the decision. Caught the pressure of the Korean Zombie and met him head on, ducked down, landed that up elbow, and the Korean Zombie ran head first into it and knocked himself out. He caught Jeremy Stephens with a brutal body kick and dropped him and hurt him. Almost finished him, and then he slowed down, and Jeremy Stephens was able to get that cardio back, push the pace, take down Yair, but he did enough to win the decision. I really like this fight, and I know I've said that a lot, but this is a very interesting fight to break down because it's really going to be the fact of, can Josh Emmett land the big power shots, the overhand right, the left hook, the straight right hand, the 1-2, the stance switch straight left from southpaw. He dropped Shane Burgos with that stance switch straight left or quick sit or darting straight left multiple times in their fight. And that is something that Yair is going to have to look out for because Emmett is kind of like an offensive lineman. He moves like a lineman. It's very, really quick, fast twitch muscle fibers, left and right, lateral movement, in and out. But a lot of the movement from Josh Emmett is lateral, and that's what allows him to hide those stance switch straight left hands and those pot shots. He'll move laterally, left, right, come in, forward, backward, left and right. Where are you coming from? Bop! Switch southpaw and land that straight left. It's like you're throwing a jab, but you're switching your stance so the jab is now your power hand, and it cracks a lot of his opponents on the chin, and he catches a lot of people off guard. I mean, the right hand into the picture-perfect left hook that he knocked out Ricardo Lamas with. If he lands on the chin of Yair Rodriguez, he can put him out. And if Yair lands one of the big kicks to the body, especially if Emmett's in southpaw, look for him to attack with that right kick to the body. If Emmett's in orthodox, he'll probably 1-2 switch southpaw, or 1 jab, right hook, switch southpaw, left kick to the body, attack the right low kick when they're both in the orthodox stance. The kicking game is going to be heavy. It's going to be early. It's going to be often for Yair Rodriguez. And then when it comes to the power and the movement, it's going to be Yair who has to take the cardio away from Emmett with the body kicks, with the front leg side kicks to the knee, the low kicks, affect the movement, attack the calf like he did against Max Holloway. I really think the kicking game of Yair is going to be a big problem for Emmett, but I could also see him catching a kick of Yair and then finding a way to turn that into a left hook, catch, sweep across, left hook, catch, over the top with the overhand right, catch the kick, land the right hand to drop him and get in the top position. I think the cardio of Emmett is going to, probably bank him the 4th and the 5th round, but it's going to be, is he going to be able to take the damage of the kicking game and the power kicks of Yair Rodriguez? Because Rodriguez is the best kicker at 145 pounds, but he's also one of the best traditional martial artists inside the UFC, aside from Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, when it comes to mixing up his kicking game. So you really have to be careful. This fight is basically a coin flip, in my opinion. Like, this is a very, very hard matchup to call. I could see Yair picking him apart with the low kick, slowing down Emmett, and ripping the body shots with the, southpaw left back kick to the body when he's in orthodox, the right kick to the body when they're both in orthodox, the right low kick, stance switch into southpaw, boom, left kick to the body. I could see the body kicks and the low kicks slowing down Emmett, and then he can set up a beautiful high kick, a question mark kick over the top. I think it's going to be working low, multi-level combinations, low kicks, body kicks, low level with the legs, mid-level body, and then eventually working up to the head. But the speed and power that Yair has is extremely underrated, I feel like. And you saw that in the Max Holloway fight. That fight was back and forth. That fight was close. Max Holloway won it, but it was only 3 rounds to 2. And Yair had a fantastic first round. I mean, chop the low kicks, land in the right hand. Everything that Yair throws is explosive. It's fast twitch, which is why he gets tired, later in the fight. And I think that Josh Emmett is the exact same way, but Yair just throws so much more volume that he tires himself out quicker. Emmett's a little bit more methodical. He's a little bit more economical with the shots that he throws, and he picks his shots, which allows him to carry that cardio over into the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th round, which is something he's going to need here. I fully expect Josh Emmett to bank the 4th and the 5th. So if we give the championship rounds to Emmett, that would mean that Yair would have to win the first 3 rounds and, not get caught. I think we'll see Emmett mix in the wrestling, but I really do think that the body kicks and the kicking game of Yair is going to be too much for Emmett. And I think the body kicks are going to shut down Josh Emmett. And eventually, if it's not the body kicks that take him out, it's going to be the kicks up top to the head. The low kicks are going to slow down the movement. It's going to slow down the explosiveness. And I know, on one hand, that is true. But on the second hand, I mean, he ripped his entire knee apart in the fight against Shane Burgos and still basically fought on one leg and was able to use his fast twitch muscle fibers, his movement, and his footwork to land big power shots and win that fight via decision and drop Burgos even with a torn apart knee. So I don't expect the low kicks to really slow down Emmett completely, but getting kicked by Shane Burgos and then getting low kicked by Yair Rodriguez is a different thing. It's a different level of kicking game. It's a different level of technique. It's a different level of hip action, a different level of torque and power that comes in those kicks from Yair Rodriguez. And I think it's going to be something different than Josh Emmett's ever felt. But at the same time, the overhand right and the power punches of Josh Emmett is going to be something that Yair hasn't really dealt with either. We've seen Yair have trouble with the wrestling. Jeremy Stephens and Frankie Edgar are 2 perfect examples, and the cardio is what failed Yair in the fight against Jeremy Stephens, which allowed Jeremy to take the back, take him down. I think we're going to see Emmett resort to the wrestling later on in the fight when Yair's slowing down from hitting all those kicks, the kicks to the body, the low kicks, the kicks up top to the head. But when it really comes down to it, Yair is going to have a 5-inch reach or a height advantage at 5'11" to 5'6" for Josh Emmett. And he's also going to have only a 1-inch reach advantage, but when it comes to the leg reach, he's going to have a 2-inch leg reach advantage, and that's what you really have to look at because it's going to be a kick-heavy game and kick-heavy offense from El Pantera Yair Rodriguez. And when it comes to breaking down the fight, I really think it's going to be hard for Emmett to close the distance and crash the pocket. He's going to have to stay in boxing range, because every time you're at kicking range, unless he can explode as Yair's throwing his kicks, before he's able to get the kick up right in mid-extension and he can land that right hand, the overhand right, the left hook, the 1-2 down the middle, then he can catch Yair Rodriguez. I really think that stance switch, straight left hand in southpaw is going to be a big weapon against Yair if he can time Yair's hip flexion, time Yair's hip torque, and catch him before he's able to fully extend on the kick and crowd the movement and crowd the space and land that straight left hand from southpaw. I think that's going to be a big weapon for Emmett. I think he's going to use his wrestling, but I think the kicks to the body and the low kicks are going to work early and often. I think Yair's going to come out quick. I think Emmett's going to come out quick as well, but Yair's going to be able to keep it at kicking range. I think he'll get hit and get hurt, and it really only takes one shot from a guy like Josh Emmett to put you out. I mean, we've seen that multiple times in his career. He's losing the fight until he's not, and usually if he's not, he's either knocking you out. He's either knocking you out or he's dropping you. So you have to take that into consideration. But I think the kicking technique, the fast twitch muscle fibers, the power that Yair generates with the speed and no telegraph that he has in those kicks, it's going to give Josh Emmett a lot of trouble. Low kicks, body kicks, the right kick to the body, the 1-2 stance switch to southpaw, left kick to the body. I think he's going to really attack the body and slow him down. And then he's going to come up top with a left high kick and drop Josh Emmett and get the TKO victory. So my pick is going to be Yair El Pantera Rodriguez, the number 2 ranked featherweight, to become the new interim UFC featherweight champion via a 3rd round left head kick knockout. I could see Emmett winning. If it goes to a decision, I would more lean towards the side of Emmett because of what we already talked about with him resorting to his wrestling, slowing down Yair, and banking the championship rounds. But I think eventually Yair is going to find the shot. There's no telegraph in his kicks. There's a lot of power and a lot of speed, and he's going to work low, work to the body, and eventually set it up high. It's going to be the high kick kill shot for Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez to become the new interim featherweight champion via a 3rd round left head kick knockout.